Okay, so looking after the next part of your literature review on Article 2, I'm starting with what appears to be the second paragraph in it. Outside influences such as interest groups have a firm hold over party nominations. I would just say interest groups have a firm hold over party nominations unless you can list the outside influences. I would just leave that part out. The next sentence you have, with a significant role in these nominations, the interest groups can put forth who will better represent the party's views, typically set by influencers. I think that sentence stumbles around a bit too much and doesn't really get anywhere. I eliminated it. What I would do then is you say the authors of this article, I would say Lyman et al., and instead of stating, I would say that they note that the beginning of, you say this overwhelming, I would say that overwhelming. Again, it's something you already talked about, so it's that thing in the past, not this thing in the future. That thing I showed you, this thing I'm going to show you. We have those two words for a reason. 50s and 60s, when parties were looking at conventions for nominees. And you have a comma, usually run and organized by outside influencers. I think it's a cleaner sentence to write it the way I wrote it there. As far back as the 50s and 60s, when parties were looking for nominees at conventions that were usually run and organized by the outside influencers. And you need a citation there too. So then this next sentence that you have here, since then the ability to have political parties change their minds on a dime has become more comfortable since the outside influencers have taken more hands-on approach with politics. I really don't understand what you're getting at there, so please redraft that. The increased involvement of outsiders, and it's just simply to say, resulted in the severe polarization, and maybe you could say that we now see. There's a bit that I cut out there for clarity's sake. Always with your writing, be thinking about how you can simplify things. That's really the most critical thing at this point for most college writers, is to be thinking about simplification. Now we jump over here a little bit and you talk about spatial models. You have a quote about spatial models. And since both parties have, I would say many, instead of you say they're a heavy load, I mean it's just many will be fine. You say after the comma, them, comma, both of the parties have realized the importance of their attendance. How about they have both realized the importance of their attendance? And what do you mean by attendance? That's the question. I have several sentences in a row where I have these green highlighted comments that are indicating that there's something I'm not following usually. The most dedicated outsider activists are the ones, and then you say, how to hold the most. You're missing some words in there. I can't make heads or tails of it. And then at the end of that sentence, you talk about saying policy changes and influencing party position holders when voting on subjects in the House. You would capitalize House, by the way, because it's the House of Representatives I presume you're talking about. But voting on subjects. Who's doing the voting? The legislators, I imagine. But you're not filling in the blanks that the reader needs you to fill in. You're the expert here. You read the articles. The reader doesn't necessarily know what you know. It's called the curse of knowledge. It's difficult to correct. Even advanced writers make these kind of problems all the time. You need that, as I say, that internal editor who's always reading what you're writing and always asking the questions that a naive reader would ask, like, what is this person talking about? I don't understand that. Look for the points of confusion in your writing. That's the key. That's what these videos are supposed to give you. I've got to get a move on here before I run out of time. Instead of saying the years of, you can just strike that. Between 1992 and 2000, the authors found you can eliminate through statistical research. They just found that on topics such as social welfare, the most committed GOP arguments had moved, you say, 0.1 units further to the right. I say further to the right than the least committed GOP activist. Starting a sentence here with however, that's not a good move. Try yet without a comma. The party commitment question, commitment to what, is noticeably smaller, which could also, and then I crossed out, which could show a direct correlation. Just better to say could be correlated with Republicans gaining control of both the House and the Senate in recent years. You say both houses. House and Senate is cleaner there. And again, it's not clear what's going on to the reader. Is a 0.1 move to the right a lot or a little? If Republican Party commitment to something is noticeably smaller, why would that correlate with them gaining control of Congress? And the relationship you're describing is on shaky ground because gains by Republicans in the House can be explained now by gerrymandering, voter suppression, influence of dark money, Russian social engineering campaigns in the most recent election. It's really not a super clear to me how that one that movement can be said to be the controlling variable. Since just 1992 is fine, you don't need that year. Since 1992, you say party commitment. Again, the reader's lost if you don't define what commitment is from the outside. Everything else there is fine. You do need a cite on that sentence. The next sentence is fine, just needs a cite. And then at the end I struck out what was there about the topic of party polarization is one of the most significant. That's just, what you've got there is just kind of boilerplate text. It's not helpful. Not adding anything, so you want to eliminate it and make things a little bit more slick there. You've already, your second article review there is already really long, and you didn't do a lot on Article 3, you did a lot on Article 2, but Article 3 is a little bit light in terms of your coverage. So I would try to cut back on 2 and put a little bit more on number 3.